Welcome to the fifth episode of the fifth season of Bate, Papo, which is a public outreach project of the Department of Composition of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, which aims to dialogue with musicians about issues relating to the world of musical composition. The project proposes to engage in dialogue with musicians from different aspects, both in concert music, jazz and Brazilian popular music without aesthetic restrictions. Videos from the previous 4 years, 2022 to 2023, and from this fifth season, 2024, are available on our YouTube channel. Subscribe and activate the bell to receive notifications about upcoming programs. Programs from 2023 onwards are also available in podcast format on Spotify, Apple, among other platforms. The team carry out this project is made up of me, Liduino Pitombeira, and Professor Yann Wagner. And we are honored to welcome today composer Daniel Serrano to talk about his musical work, his activities as a teacher in music, and his perspectives in the field of composition.
Good afternoon, Daniel. Good afternoon, Liduino. First of all, I'm going to read a short bio from Daniel. Daniel studied composition with Michael Jarrell at the University of Music and Performing Arts, Vienna. He also continued his education at Impuls Academy in Graz, ARCO in Marseille, Luxembourg Composition Academy, 4th International Young Composers Academy of Ticino Music in Lugano, Trabant Workshop for Composers in Basel, and outHEAR New Music Week in Larissa, where he received lessons from Bate, Isabel Mundry, Alberto Posadas, Stefano Gervasoni, Yann, among others. Furthermore, he was awarded the first prize of Fanny Hensel Composition Competition 2015 and the first prize of the GMTH Artistic Competition in 2017. His works are played by performers such as Klangforum Vienna, Ensemble Multilateral Paris, Ensemble FAS, among many others. So, we'd like to welcome you here, Daniel, again, and we are going to start our conversation with the very first question that you usually ask for all the composers invited. That is to ask you to talk a little bit about your the paths that conduct you to your career in composition, or maybe even like how did you start to study music or composition, or people that influenced you, maybe composers or other people not related to music. Feel free to tell us a little bit about your path.
Thank you very much for inviting me to take part of this interview. I first studied violin in Spain, and when I was studying, actually I started playing with a contemporary ensemble, and we played a lot of contemporary music, works by very young composers, and doing like this, I discover a lot of music, discover new styles, because until this moment I was playing only for like classical music, like the classical repertoire we violinists play and musicians play.
Yes.
When I was trying to study this repertoire and to play in this music, I realized it's very interesting to create something new, and I wanted to experiment this too. So I started composing, and it was this way, thanks actually to the violin and to the performing of new music. And so I started composing, and I finished my bachelor's in Spain, and I decided I wanted to study composition too, not only to compose but to study it. So I was considering staying in Spain, but I was kind of I wanted to go to Austria or to Germany, but at the end I decided to go to Vienna since it's a very good city for musicians with a long tradition of composers and music. And I did the entrance examination. I was very lucky. I passed it, and I started studying composition. And well, while I was studying, I got some commissions. My music was played, was performed, and well, now I'm here. Still trying to get commissions to compose a lot, and yes.
Good. I have a question about music theory. I know you teach music theory. So what's the importance of music theory in your compositional process, and how these two areas, composition and theory, they interact?
Yeah, well, when I went to Vienna, I studied music theory too, parallel to composition. And at the beginning, I wasn't sure if it's a good idea because, well, just for composing you have to dedicate a lot of time, right? But I think it was a very good idea to study music theory too, since the music theory teach you all kind of tools and techniques, strategies, how to analyze music, how to understand music. That's something you can get also composing and seeing other music. You don't have to study music theory, but of course it helps a lot. And I think that's the way music theory is helping me to understand much better not only my music but music by other composers too.
I have a additional question about music theory. We were talking earlier about pitch class sets, Schenkerian. How is the music theory in Europe? What do you study? Harmony, or how do you analyze? What are the tools you use to analyze music?
Well, I think like music theory is a interesting term and interesting subject. Like probably in every school is different. So I wouldn't say like there is a music theory in Europe, but maybe there is a music theory in the school where I'm teaching in Vienna, or in I don't know, in Berlin it's going to be different, or in Paris it's going to be different. But what I studied was I did, like, we took many classes, for example, harmony, counterpoint, analysis, ear training is also a very important part. And I think what we did a lot, it's actually trying to imitate styles of other composers, for example, starting with Palestrina or Jules Kahn, and of course Mozart, Brahms, and all these composers are very famous and whose music is very nice and lovely. But also, of course, orchestration is very important too. I almost forgot about this. Orchestration, I learned a lot about music, and also I think it's very important to analyze too the orchestration. Yeah.
Nice. And could you tell us a little bit about your activities as a teacher and also as a violinist, and maybe how this interacts with your compositional craft nowadays?
Yeah, I used to be a violinist, but when I finished my bachelor's, it's kind of I stopped playing violin. I was still playing a bit, sometimes with this ensemble for contemporary music, but at some point I decided to focus on composition and music theory. And well, it was very nice because before I finished my degree, I studied teaching in Vienna, and I started with 5 hours. I was doing like ear training, analysis, and harmony, and I learned a lot by means of teaching. Actually, I think it's a very good thing to do, because one thing is like to understand music theory or to understand the music, but if you have to explain to other people, it's kind of a different thing. It's like you really have to know how music works, because otherwise other people they are not going to understand you if you don't know it very well. So explain to other people, I think it helps a lot too. Of course, that I would say like this kind of music theory background and teaching background, it's kind of influenced too on my music.
So when you teach music theory, let's say you take Mozart string quartet, for example, and the idea is to understand how that piece works, right? How did Mozart wrote that piece, and so you bring the harmony aspect and counterpoint, and the student will try to do another string quartet that sounds like Mozart. That's the idea, general idea of.
Well, probably depends for which subject they are doing this. There are subjects where the students are only like analyzing something and they don't have to imitate a style.
Okay.
But there are maybe harmony or counterpoint. We analyze the piece. It could be a string quartet, it could be a piano sonata or a minuet. They try to understand how it works harmonically and formally too. Probably at some point they will try to imitate this style too.
Build some.
Yeah.
Okay.
But of course, if you are a composer, it's of course nice to, I would say, to try to imitate the styles, but you have to find at some point your own way, your own style. It's not everything. It's not everything about imitating other styles, but
your voice is there,
of course. But it can help. It helps you to imitate other styles. It helps you to develop your own style.
And basically, are composition students that take class with you, or musicians in general?
I usually don't teach composition students, only performers.
Performers. Okay.
And could you tell us a little bit about the topic that you are going to lead the workshop today here with us? That's contrapunto improvisation.
It's contrapunto alla mente.
Okay, so could you explain for our viewers what does it mean?
Well, it's a very interesting subject and very instructive too. It's about improvisation in the Renaissance period by singing, but also not also from the Renaissance, but from the late Middle Ages, and it's about some techniques. Normally, well, it depends. There are some easy techniques, other are a bit harder, but later we will see probably only the easy techniques because we have only like 2 hours and a half. We don't have enough time to see the hard techniques. And it's very interesting because this subject, I think, unites kind of ear training, but harmony and counterpoint too, and improvisation. So it's kind of a very nice thing to teach and to learn.
Yeah, very nice. And do you see do you see connections or possibilities to implement this kind of improvisation, this kind of technique of improvisation from the Renaissance in nowadays compositions, even in compositions that are not even like harmonic related to.
Well, maybe I don't know if this, if we could like incorporate these improvisational techniques in like new compositional practices, but maybe yes. But for example, because we are going to talk about this later about the one piece I wrote, it's going about actually about Renaissance compositional techniques, but they are a bit different. They are not like well, more or less they are about improvisation, so it's going to be related.
Nice.
And a general question for you about the way the world receives composition today. So, how do you perceive the current state of and future prospects of compositional production worldwide, in terms of how in Vienna or in other places?
Yeah, in general, I think it's a very hard. Well, it's a difficult aspect right now. I'm running an ensemble for contemporary music in Vienna. It's a quite young group of musicians. And
You conduct the group?
no, I'm not conducting. I'm just kind of organizing.
Okay.
And the thing I observe in, well, I would say in Austria and in Vienna, but probably it's everywhere like that. It's like you see less public coming to the concerts. So it's not very easy to attract people into the concerts. And I think that's something we have to think about, how to maybe to create formats, different ways of organizing a concert to which can attract people, above all young people, to come to these concerts, and they can really feel like this concert, like this music, but not only contemporary music, but classical music too, that it's something close to them and not something like very...
Yes. And just a curiosity, do you think that, at least in Vienna, it got worse after the pandemics? Or do you think it was already happening a lot and the pandemics didn't have any?
Well, I'm not sure if I can see any connection to the pandemics, at least in Vienna.
Yeah.
Because I think it was the situation was a bit similar before the pandemics. I remember like after the lockdowns, because we have some of them.
Yes.
in Vienna we have like 3, I forgot. I remember after this, like many people actually went to the concerts because they wanted to get out
Yes.
and do the things. But it lasted maybe only 1 year, and after this the situation was similar than before.
Yes. Okay.
Now, talking about your music, could you talk a little bit about your work, Três Glossas? This work will have the link in the description of the video. So,
Yeah, that actually when I was talking about kind of compositional techniques from the Renaissance, actually I employ them in this piece. Kind of, because glossas are they are techniques used actually in the Iberian Peninsula by Renaissance composers, by means of which the composer, they pick up a melody and they kind of did some variations on this melody. So I did like 3. It was like 2 variations or 3 variations, because the first is like the melody, but I would say you cannot recognize this melody here. It's a very popular melody in Spain in the 15th century, and I arrange this melody on this way you cannot recognize it while listen to it, and I did kind of variations. But of course, if you will listen to this piece, probably you wouldn't think that's kind of Renaissance style or Renaissance technique.
So it's a kind of intertextual process in which you apply variations to transform the original.
That's right. That's right.
Nice. And about your other piece that you mentioned to us, the Klimt's Gardens. Could you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, that's something different. So in Tres Closas, I was applying this compositional technique from the Renaissance in Spain and Portugal. And here as an inspiration, I'm using paintings by Gustav Klimt. He had some gardens. He painted some gardens, and these paintings are very nice, very beautiful. It kind of it's quite similar to Impressionism, and I used some elements. He used it too in his paintings, and I implemented this into my composition.
Okay, and how about this process of taking a visual art as a reference and kind of translating these techniques into music? How did you map this, or how was it?
Yeah, I have to admit that's something I really enjoyed doing it, taking things from other arts. I think that's something we composers like doing. Sometimes it's not only from painting, but maybe from the literature or other architecture, for example.
Yes.
It's just the way the painter is painting, you try to translate into music. Like if something is blurred, you try to adapt it into music too, for example.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
So basically you do a survey on the painting and try to find features.
Yeah, and if you see a color is predominant, this painting, in this case it's the green, because they are gardens. So you try to maybe to focus musically your composition on one color, one instrumental color.
Oh, okay.
In this case, you take the color as instrumental
timbre.
Timbre.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. And could you tell us a little bit about your future projects, like what you are planning to do, for the next year, maybe?
Yeah, for example, I have next month a piece played in Shenzhen in China for violin. The piece was already premiered in Vienna, but it's going to be played again. In October, I have some concerts in Austria too, a quartet, not a string quartet with mixed instruments. I also compose a new piece. It's going to be premiere I think it's going to be November or December for a Baroque lineup.
Nice.
That's going to be for singer, Baroque violin, I have to remember,
Harpsichord probably.
Harpsichord and Baroque cello. I did this many times, to compose for Baroque ensembles. I really enjoy this kind of connection between two worlds, right? Between the early music and the new music, and try to do kind of connection between them.
I'm curious about how things are in Vienna in relation to the mood of the performers of classical music about contemporary music? Like, are they? Do you feel that there is like in general a kind of resistance against contemporary music, or do you think they more embrace the new music and they want to be part of that? What's your perception?
Well, yeah, I think you can find both actually.
Yes.
Like there are people who play classical music, but they are open to play new music too. Like everywhere, there are old institutions, musical institutions. They are used to play only classical stuff, so they only play classical stuff. They are reluctant to to play new things. I think that's like everywhere like this. But well, for example, when I see my students at the university, I see normally they are very open to play new music. Maybe because they are young, and they are not part of the very old institutions.
Yes, because I mean, I'm thinking about the universe of the micro universe of Vienna, because I've never been there, unfortunately, but we know that's a very important and historical place for musicians, composers especially, and as almost all places that are very have a long tradition, we usually have this kind of current that wants to keep like the past alive, this kind of thing. And but also there is the, how can I say, the kind of counter current, people who wants to embrace other stuff. But it's interesting to listen from a composer's perspective, how is it in Vienna, because yeah, here in Brazil we have another kind of universe, another kind of things happening, and it's interesting that sometimes we see parallels even being like very distant places, and with very different structures.
Yeah, I think sometimes we are more similar than we think. Like, it doesn't matter if you are in Rio or in Vienna or in New York or in Paris. Sometimes we have to deal with different situations, with similar situations.
Yeah, because I'm connecting like the dots, because you told us a little bit about the difficulty nowadays to keep like a public in the concerts, not just in contemporary music concerts, but I understood that's like concerts in general, even like classical traditional music, and for several of us here in Brazil, we see this kind of difficulty happening here, and we all think, oh, okay, but maybe in Vienna it's different, and we see that's not that different, because the world is changing, and not always for the best. So we, as part of this culture of this time, we have to deal with these movements, this new way of reaching people to appreciate our music, our art, etc. And well, sorry, I'm kind of thinking out loud here, but it's just because I don't know if I have like a precise question about that, but do you see like other ways to interact with people nowadays, with potential like potential public to the music produced nowadays, that can be more independent of this traditional way of like watching concerts live. Of course, we have technologies for that, but we don't have actually a well-developed culture for that. I mean, in our kind of subgenre. What are your reflections about
Yeah,
this?
I don't know. It's a very difficult topic because what I'm experiencing that like for some people this concentration is a difficult matter.
Yes.
And for young people right now it's even more difficult because of social media and everything. Well, I have friends in Vienna, but in other places they cannot sit for 1 hour in a place just not saying anything, just listening to something or just watching. They cannot do this because they are not used to it.
Yeah.
So
We're
that's
not trained for that.
Yeah, that's right. They are not trained for this. So probably that's one of the problems we are dealing with right now. The concentration, the try to focus on one thing for not a lot of time, but maybe only 30 minutes or something like this.
Yes.
Well, that's probably something should be trained more intensively in the schools and or this kind of educational institutions. But yeah, of course, you are totally right. We have to find maybe new formats, new ways to reach more people and to that these people are interested in what we are doing.
Then going back a little bit to talk again about your compositional process. How is your routine of work? When you have to start a new piece, what do you do first? You play, improvise, you do plans, or you come up with a concept? How do you start your new piece? I know it's different. Every new piece has different
That's right.
starting points. But in general, like you compose every day. How is your routine as a composer?
Well, if I'm going to compose a new piece, probably I'm going to look for inspiration before. It sounds a bit strange, but not like like kind of artistic inspiration, like reading something or going to the museum or actually like I did before with other compositions. So if I think something's very fascinating for me or something I really like, I would like to translate this into composition or into music. I'm going to try this. So I have some ideas I would like to create, to implement into music for my next compositions. So I have these ideas, that's good. And the next step would be like to create a map, how I'm going to do. Normally I don't have, I don't write anything down. So I'm not doing the plan by writing, but it's all in my head, more or less. Well, I start doing my compositional work. Sometimes, of course, if you want to use some extended techniques, or well, it depends. I can try out some things on the violin. So I still play violin for for trying out extended techniques or harmonics, for example.
And do you do it on pens and paper or use the computer? Or
I use the
piano?
computer. I used to only the computer. I started doing on paper everything, but at some point I felt like I'm doing a lot of work because you have to
Write
on
twice.
paper, you have to write it twice. So I felt like I'm writing on computer, and that's fine for me because I can work like this too.
And which software do you use?
I'm using Finale.
Finale.
Still.
Which died yesterday.
Yeah, but I didn't start to compose a new composition, so let's see what's happening.
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah.
If you don't have any more questions, maybe you can leave your final message for our public, our students.
Yeah, just well, it's everything is about working hard a lot, working a lot. Of course, sometimes things don't happen like you wish, but still we have to continue our way. Well, if bad things happen, just continue composing, continue working, and you will see the you will see that everything you have done, it has I don't know the word right now, but a recompensation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for your generosity to come here and do the masterclass on contrapunto and this interview. And for our public, we'll see you next month with another composer.
Yeah, it's true. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.